I move that this House, 1, unequivocally condemns the attacks on Israel by Hamas, which are the heinous acts of terrorists and have encompassed by targeting and murder of civilians, including women and children, the taking of hostages and indiscriminate rocket fire. 2, stands with Israel and recognises its inherent right to defend itself. 3, condemns anti-Semitism and recognises that generations of Jewish people have been subject to this hateful prejudice. 4, calls for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. 5, recognises that Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people nor their legitimate needs and aspirations. 6, acknowledges the devastating loss of Israeli and Palestinian life and that innocent civilians on all sides are suffering as a result of the attacks by Hamas and the subsequent conflict. 7, supports justice and freedom for Israelis and Palestinians alike. 8, acknowledges what has unfolded is deeply distressing for many in the Victorian community, close to the heart of many, and it's important that we maintain respect for each other here at home as people express their views. 9, condemns all form of hate speech and violent extremist activity, including anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. 10, recognises an attack on any religion is an attack on all religions and that we all share a responsibility to unite, condemn and defeat such an attack on our common values and way of life. And 11, affirms in the strongest possible terms that hateful prejudice has no place in Victoria.
Premier.
Speaker, it is hard to imagine that only 10 days have passed since Hamas launched its unspeakable attacks on Israel. 10 days ago, since thousands of young partygoers at a music festival, tens of thousands of people living in towns and kibbutz, and millions of Israelis were attacked and subjected to the most indescribable terror. And while we have all read the reports, seen the videos, and some of us heard firsthand the horror of these cowardly attacks, none of us can imagine how awful it must have been to be going about your life 1 minute and the next to have screams, gunfire and rockets fill the air, to have family or friends abducted, murdered, to have to pretend to be dead in order to save yourself. Speaker, it is simply inconceivable. Last Monday, just in the days after those attacks started, representatives of the Rabbinical Council of Victoria joined me in my office alongside the Deputy Premier and Minister for Multicultural Affairs, where we met, we talked and we prayed. And I was honoured to stand with Victoria's Jewish community on Friday evening, along with many other colleagues in this place, as we came together to condemn unequivocally the terrorist attacks on Israel by Hamas. It was a deeply moving occasion, and I thank the community for inviting me, many of whom are here today, and many of whom I have spoken with in the past week. Speaker, I'd like today to share part of the speech I gave at that vigil with the House today. I'm honoured you have invited me, and I'm deeply moved by the personal stories you have shared in the past week. From speaking with the Rabbinical Council to speaking to people on the street, so many people in the community have told me about the anxiety they feel for their family and for their friends and their homeland. I've heard stories that have ended with good news, the missed calls that got returned, the text messages that said, "I'm okay." Not everybody's story we know will end this way. I read too about a 12-year-old boy named Erez Calderon. He's around the same age as my daughter, a nice boy. He and his family lived in a kibbutz near Oz, which is a major grower of asparagus in Israel. All we know about Erez right now is that he's somewhere in Gaza. So is his sister, his father, his grandmother. Their status is missing and kibbutz near Oz no longer stands. One member of the family said, "It feels just like a horror movie that would never come true." And whether they know an Erez or not, perhaps every Jewish person on earth has contemplated that feeling these past few days. This horror movie, this unthinkable sequel. Terrorism revealed to us from around the world in 10-second videos. And we know too now that it was the single greatest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. And I unequivocally condemn the terror and violence we have seen these past 10 days in Israel. I can't begin to imagine the feeling of having to deal with this pain and sorrow I will never truly know. But this community knows. And as Premier of the state, I hear you, I feel your anguish. And on behalf of the Victorian community, I offer you nothing less than our love, than our care, our support and our friendship. Victoria and Israel have always shared a deep connection, that friendship. It has a lot to do with similarities. It has a lot to do with our strong Jewish community. And this is a friendship that will endure today, tomorrow and forever, because Israel will endure today, tomorrow and forever. We also know that the next few weeks won't be easy. The Jewish community are united by love, but I also know you continue to face the world's oldest form of hate. And we will stand with you. Our government, our society, does not tolerate racism and will never tolerate anti-Semitism. My door remains open to you and to your leaders, and I'm prepared to offer any support you need to stay safe on our streets, in your schools and in your homes. Because every Victorian, no matter who they are, has that right. Everyone in Israel has that right too. The right to safety, to security, the simple freedom to exist, the ordinary ability to live quietly and build something of one's own and not be fighting to survive. That simple private peace that all Australians enjoy is all Israelis want. It's the hope that Golda Meir described 50 years ago when she said, "We do not rejoice in victories. We rejoice when a new kind of cotton is grown, when the strawberries bloom in Israel." I hope we will see the strawberries bloom in Israel next spring, and I hope we will see the asparagus grow again in Kibbutz Nir Oz. I know the support that the Jewish community has been providing to their loved ones in the homeland will make a difference in Israel. And I hope the community can feel the love, care and support we have for you and the community here in Victoria. Speaker, these were the words that I gave last Friday evening, and as I said, was joined by so many of my colleagues in this place. But Speaker, too, we know that the pain, the grief and anguish has not just been felt by the Jewish community or indeed the citizens of Israel. There are 2 million men, women and children in Gaza, all of whom too have an unalienable right to prosperity and peace. Hamas has a responsibility to deliver prosperity and peace, but they have not done that. They have consigned every single person to live in terror because they hate their neighbours' children more than they love their own. Speaker, in Australia, we build bunkers in our homes in the event of the terrible tragedy of bushfire, not in the event of terrorists storming them and murdering us and our children. And it goes without saying, for the removal of all doubt, any loss of life on either side of the border is an unspeakable tragedy. And I am grateful that for the most part here in Victoria, our tolerant, multicultural and multi-faith society has been able to reckon with these events in a respectful way. Across our state, religious leaders and community leaders have engaged deeply with their communities in recognition that an attack on any religion is an attack on all religions. And Victoria is always better when we come together as one. That is not in any way to diminish the actions, unforgivable actions of a tiny minority, or the horror that must be felt by many as they see a very small group of neo-Nazis terrorising people in our city. And on that point, Speaker, I am pleased that last sitting week in this place we debated and passed the banning of the Nazi salute in Victoria, once again our state leading the nation. And this week, without wanting to preempt or foreshadow what might happen in the Legislative Council, but should that bill equally pass today, as we hope it does, I want to affirm to the community here that should it pass the Parliament in the next 2 days, we will aim to give the bill effect via royal assent without delay, so that the law will be in place as soon as possible, and that is something I've communicated directly to the member for Caulfield. And we do not want to waste one single day in making the Nazi salute ban the law of our state. Speaker, what has transpired in the past days has been shocking, and we know that there will be many more challenging days and weeks to come. But as this Parliament unites in our condemnation of the terror that has been committed, we must also unite in a shared vision for the future, a future where every person, regardless of race, religion, background or upbringing, can live in peace, to live safely and without fear. I commend the motion to the House.
Yeah.